Melody Rackham, and we are doing a study of prayers in the Bible, journeying through the Bible to learn about the individual prayers in the Bible and what we can learn from each of them. So, last time we talked about the groaning of the people in Israel, like in Egypt, and the people of Israel in Egypt, and how God heard that and was concerned about them, and that they hadn't been groaning and crying the whole time. They just started doing that, and when they started, he heard and he took action. And so here we are at Moses and God talking at the burning bush. Now Moses has been an exiled. He was a former Egyptian person, exiled for 40 years. Now he's been tending sheep. He's married. He's got a couple of boys, and he's just living a very quiet life. Probably thinks he's living the life. I mean, it's pretty nice. He's got a new family. It's all very peaceful, quiet. Trying to forget the fact that he murdered somebody. And but God had chosen Moses from the beginning. So in Exodus chapter 3, I'll just read it. It says, "Now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock to the far side of the desert and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him." Now the angel of the Lord is God. It's Jesus. It's God, So it's God that he's talking to, not an angel. "The angel of the Lord appeared to him in flames of fire from within a bush. Moses saw that the bush was on fire. It did not burn up. So Moses thought, 'I will go over and see this strange sight, why the bush does not burn up.'" So it's funny that we call it the burning bush, but it should be called the non-burning bush because it's not burning. "When the Lord saw that he had gone over to look, God called to him from within the bush, 'Moses, Moses.' And Moses said, 'Here I am.' 'Do not come any closer,' God said. 'Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground.' Then he said, 'I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob.' At this, Moses hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. The Lord said, 'I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I am concerned about their suffering. So I have come down to rescue them from the hand of the Egyptians and to bring them up out of that land into a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey, the home of the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and the Jebusites. And now the cry of the Israelites has reached me, and I have seen the way the Egyptians are oppressing them. So now go. I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt.'" Ah! What? This whole thing is just mind-blowing. And like I've said before, we like to think that we would act differently than Moses or people in the past, that we would be different, think different, act different. We would not. We would react the exact same way, if not worse. A lot of people would react in worser ways. I have heard a lot of people say, well, yeah, and here Moses is offering all his excuses about why he can't do this. I don't think that's fair, because this is an 80-year-old man. He's not stupid. This is a very wise man now. He's chosen by God, so he's not a stupid man. He's a wise man, and he's also very humble. I believe Joshua, finishing up Deuteronomy, said that Moses was the most humble man on the face of the earth. So, stark contrast kind of to the way the half-cocked way he was acting as a young man. So Moses, his first thing is, "But Moses said to God, 'Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt?'" Now, this is a legitimate question. It reminds me of when Mary asked, well, how can this be? Because I am a virgin. Please, details. And Moses probably used to think he was something else because he'd been raised in Pharaoh's household and, had wealth and some influence. And, lots of young people think that they can do anything or that they overestimate their importance. Now, Moses has been living as a humble shepherd for 40 years. He knows his heritage is a bunch of slaves. They've been slaves for 400 years. His parents are dead. He's got no wealth, no pedigree of any kind. He is not a prince or a person who could, a political person who could legitimately even walk in and get an audience with Pharaoh. I mean, that's the real question. How could I get in to talk to Pharaoh? I'm nobody. I'm a stinky shepherd. That's what the Egyptians think of me. Because he knows what Egyptians think of shepherds. Because back there in Genesis, in Joseph's story, it said that shepherds are detestable to the Egyptians. So Moses is the lowest compared to Pharaoh. He's at the very bottom. So this is an important question. Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? Okay, so just put this in your mind. Think about yourself, and if God appeared to you and said, I want you to go to the President of the United States and convince him to do something he does not ever want to do. Not ever does he want to do this. This isn't something that you're trying to convince him to do that would be in his best interests. That's hard enough. But this is something he does not want to do. This is something that would deprive him of his entire economy. The entire way that his country functions. You are wanting him to give that up because I said so. First of all, try to get in to see the President of the United States as yourself. You're not a leader of a corporation. You're not a rich person. You're not an influencer. You're not a Hollywood movie star. You're not anything. You're just you. And you're supposed to go and talk to the President of the United States because Pharaoh at the time was the most powerful being on the earth, probably. He was probably the most powerful human. There was no greater empire than Egypt at the time. So this is not an excuse on the part of Moses. This is legit. This is top of mind. How can I get in to talk to Pharaoh? So, and God said, so God didn't just say, shut up and do what I say. He says, I will be with you. And this will be the sign to you that it is I who have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship God on this mountain. So God, as we've talked about before, is not in the present. He's everywhere on the timeline. He sees the entire manuscript. He knows the end and the beginning. He sees the whole thing. So he's already there. He's already got the 10 Commandments, the law, all that stuff. He's there already. So he can tell Moses how this is going to be, because Moses is traveling through time normally in a linear fashion. And so he says, you're going to come and worship me on this mountain when you've brought the people out of Egypt. God's past it. He's like, okay, anyway, Pharaoh Shmaro, by the time when you're going to do this. So, but the main answer is, I will be with you. I remember my dad talks about a Tony Evans sermon where he uses an illustration of he went with the owner of an NFL football team to a ball game, and he was invited. The owner invited Mr. Evans to a football game, and he was amazed at how different the experience was. They parked in a different place. It was way close. They went in a special door. They sat in a special booth. They got special food. They got special attention. They got to meet the players afterwards, all this stuff. And what Mr. Evans derived from this is, it's not about who you are. It's who you're with. I think it was either that or it was at a Promise Keepers thing. But it's not about who you are. It's who you're with. So it's like, yeah, I'm nobody. Why should I get the special parking place and go in the special gate and sit at the special booth and sit and meet the players? I'm not anybody. But you're with the guy who owns the team. So that's what God is saying here. It's not about you. I'm going to get you in. I got the VIP pass. I am talking to Pharaoh, not you. I am talking to Pharaoh, and I want you to go in and just open your mouth and tell Pharaoh what I say. Because this is a done deal. You're with me. I'm with you. I'll get you in. I mean, it's the same as being friends with somebody who's friends with a famous person. It's like, you're not anybody, but your friend knows the famous person. So we're getting in. We're getting backstage passes. We're getting whatever. And you'll be welcome because they know you. So I will be with you. That's what God says in this one. I will be with you. And so then, so I call these prayers because they're direct conversations with God. That's what prayer is. He's talking to God, talking to him face to face, talking to God. So it's a prayer. So I think that's legit. I think that's a legit thing that he wants to discuss with God. And God gives him this answer. I'm going to be with you. So there's the answer to that. I'm getting you in. I'm getting you in to the exclusive entrance to talk to Pharaoh. And then Moses said to God, suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you. And they ask me, what is his name? Then what shall I tell them? Okay. That's also vital. Because in this day and age, and in all days and ages, there are many gods. And so they should rightly be suspicious. The Israelites should rightly be suspicious when somebody says, God told me to do this or that. You're supposed to be suspicious. You should be, remember, you're supposed to test the spirits. So when somebody says, God told you to do this, you're like, okay. Let's sit with that for a second. I need some confirmation. I need some proof. I need some scripture to back it up. I need, so that's also a legit question. So he already asked, how am I going to get in to talk to Pharaoh? And God's like, well, I'll be with you. I'll get you in. So we set Pharaoh aside for now. And then secondly, all right, I'm going to meet the Israelites first before I go and see Pharaoh. So what do I tell them? So it's an in with both people here because they don't know me from anybody. Like maybe a few of them know that there was a brother Moses. Obviously, Aaron and Miriam know, but not everybody, because he's been gone this whole time. So what I need an in with the Israelites first. So they're the second biggest worry. And so instead of God saying, shut up and do what I say, God said to Moses, and this is the moment. This is the first time that this is ever said, and it's in capital letters in your Bible. God said to Moses, I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you. So, and there's two cool places in the Bible, in the New Testament, where Jesus says this. And at least two. And it always freaks people out. One is when he's walking on the water and they are screaming like, oh my gosh, it's a ghost. The disciples are. And the actual words are, do not be afraid. I am. So he uses this title here. So anybody who tells you that Jesus never claimed to be the God of the universe, that he does right there. He says, I am. Do not be afraid. I am. And then when they come to arrest him at the Garden of Gethsemane, when they ask him, are you Jesus of Nazareth? Or, are you the one we're looking for? He says, I am. And see, in the translation is I am he, because the people who translated the King James were into grammar rather than the truth of the statement, I guess. So he says, I am. And you'll notice everybody steps back and falls on their face when he says that. Why would they fall on their face? If they're like, yeah. If he's like, yeah, that's me. You hit your... No. What he said was, I am, the ultimate name of God. Do you know that scribes, like Jewish scribes, when they would write this name, when they would come to this name to write, they would put their pen down before they wrote it. They would go and baptize themselves, ceremonially wash their whole selves before they came back and wrote that name. That's how seriously the Jews take that name. This is the name of God. And also, Jesus talks about that name because he's the God of the living, not the dead. So he disproved the Sadducees that there is no resurrection, there's no life after death. Because he said, I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Not I was, because they're dead. I am, because they're alive. They are alive, and they will live forever. Same as God. Anyway, so that's what God said. This is what you're to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you. And apparently there was power in the name the name itself would carry and convince in the actual name, because they'd never heard that name before. But the name was potent enough when it come out of the mouth of Moses to convince them. So, and then he says, God also said to Moses, say to the Israelites, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my name forever, the name by which I am to be remembered from generation to generation. Again, why it's really important for Jesus to say that name, I am, because it's him. It's him. Go, assemble the elders of Israel and say to them, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob appeared to me and said, I have watched over you and have seen what has been done to you in Egypt. And I have promised to bring you up out of your misery in Egypt into the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, a land flowing with milk and honey. The elders of Israel will listen to you. Then you and the elders are to go to the king of Egypt and say to him, The Lord, the God of the Hebrews, has met with us. Let us take a 3-day journey into the desert to offer sacrifices to the Lord our God. But I know that the king of Egypt will not let you go unless a mighty hand compels him. So I will stretch out my hand and smite the Egyptians with all the wonders that I will perform among them. After that, he will let you go. And I will make the Egyptians favorably, this is the miracle. I will make the Egyptians favorably disposed toward this people, so that when you leave, you will not go empty-handed. Every woman is to ask her neighbor and any woman living in her house for articles of silver and gold and for clothing, which you will put on your sons and daughters, and so you will plunder the Egyptians. I just think that's really cool how God is getting ahead of, it's not ahead of himself, but kind of, how like the whole deliverance thing is done, and he's already giving, like, in his mind it's done, and so he's already giving Moses kind of like these ticky-tacky instructions about asking your neighbor for trinkets. Like, can I have that? I like those curtains. Can I have that? Can I have your jewelry? Which is like back pay for all of their, and that's what they're going to live on and this is where they're going to make the tabernacle out of, and the Ark of the Covenant. But I just think that's interesting. God's like, I'm going to whack the Egyptians. And anyway, I need you to remember to ask them, if you can have some things to go. Moses is like, I'm still not there yet. I'm still way back here. Hold on. What? And so Moses answered, he was like, yeah, that's cool. But what if they don't believe me? Like, he's still hung up on this. Like, God's talking about the girls asking for things. And Moses is like, what if they don't believe me or listen to me and say, the Lord did not appear to you? Another legit question. Because it's like, how am I going to prove this? I can say that all day long. But how am I going to prove it to them that you showed up to me? I can say stuff. But they'll probably think I'm crazy because I'm like, well, this burning bush, especially since they haven't seen anything from God for 400 years. They've just heard these. And the biggest miracle that they have seen from God in their past is Sarah having a baby when she's old. And, the nice divine arrangement of having Joseph be lifted to, but still they're kind of like, well, maybe he could have done that because he was a hard worker. And, so like a legit miracle they haven't heard of. And way back, maybe they remember Noah and the flood. Yeah. Like, it's all very ancient history, even to them. So it's like, how are they going to, how are they don't listen to me? So then the Lord said to him, what's that in your hand? A staff, he replied. The Lord said, throw it on the ground. Moses threw it on the ground, and it became a snake, and he ran from it. He's so trusting. What was that? What was the staff? Okay, throw it on the ground. Okay. Moses is having a hard day. Because the snakes, they bite you, you die. Like, it's not like there's a hospital. You're dead. Then you'd be dead up there in the mountain and no one would even know. Anyway. Yeah, so that's a perfectly legitimate reaction also. Run away from the snake. Then the Lord said to him, reach out your hand and take it by the tail. You do that. No. No. But he did. So Moses reached out and took hold of the snake, and it turned back into a staff in his hand. So already Moses is demonstrating quite a bit more trust than a lot of people would. Because a lot of people are, I'm not touching that snake. And how do I know that, like, I'm holding this and it won't turn into a snake again? Did I really see that? So I'm hearing my dogs bark. I might have to end this one now. to go check on the dogs. We can talk more Moses later.